mother Sayyidina Aisha, the daughter of Hazrat Abu Bakr and the wife of our Prophet ﷺ, when she was slandered with a terrible lie, she was slandered with an evil, vile rumour. And one of the people spreading this rumour went by the name of Mistah. And Mistah was a cousin. He was a cousin of Hazrat Abu Bakr as-Siddiq and also a cousin of Aisha. And not only that, when he moved from Makkah to Medina, Mistah, he was very poor, and Hazrat Abu Bakr financed him. He bought him a house. He gave him money for his marriage, and he's been supporting him his whole life since moving to Medina. And when Hazrat Abu Bakr as-Siddiq heard this, he was shocked and he was saddened. And he said, I swear to Allah, I will never give Mistah another penny. And shortly after that, the Surah Nur was revealed to Prophet ﷺ. And in the Surah Nur, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, let not the people who are better, who are wealthier, swear to Allah they will never give to their relatives, to the poor, to the immigrants. Let them forgive, let them forget. Don't you want Allah to forgive you like you forgive others? Subhanallah. These are the noble words of the Holy Quran. Don't you want Allah to forgive you like you forgive others? And as soon as Hazrat Abu Bakr heard this, he said, I swear to Allah, I will continue to give money and support Mistah until the day I die. And this is the topic of our khutbah today, about forgiveness, about turning the other cheek, about not keeping grudges. And Hazrat Abu Bakr, he had the most right out of everyone. That was his daughter, Sayyidina Aisha, the wife of his best friend, the wife of the Prophet ﷺ. And imagine you're giving someone money, or a relative, you're buying them a house, maybe in today's terms, maybe 200,000 you're giving them. Maybe you're giving them £1,000 a month, and then that person's slandering your daughter. So he had more right than anyone. But still he forgave, and he made the relationship and mended it. And in our life in society, we're mixing with our families, with our friends, with our work colleagues. There will be times people will say something harsh, or you'll say something, or someone will say something sarcastic, or someone will cheat you. It's going to happen in our lifetime. But how do we react to that? How do we react to that? What does our Prophet ﷺ, what was his example? What does the Quran say? And in so many places in the Quran it says to forgive, turn the other cheek, overlook. And it says the people of the paradise are those who are generous, those who control their anger, they control their tongue, even when they deserve to get angry. But they forgive, they forgive, they forgive. And this is and what is the prerequisite to forgive? Someone has to wrong you. There has to be some grievance against you to be able to forgive. And when Hazrat Aisha radiallahu anha was asked to describe the Prophet, one of the descriptions she said he did not meet evil with evil. Allah. He would overlook, he would forgive when evil was done to him. Yeah, when someone was evil to him, he was never evil back to them. And there's so many examples in his life, and one example is in Taif. He went to Taif and with Zayd, just the two of them, and they were preaching and spreading Islam there, but astaghfirullah, they didn't receive it well. And they were chased out of the city with youngsters stoning them until they had to run out of the city, and Sayyidina Muhammad and Zayd were both covered in blood, head to toe. And they were sad walking back to Makkah. And then the angel Jibreel came and he said to them, Ya Rasulullah, I heard what the people of Taif did to you, he said. He said, the angels in the mountains are asking, just give the command and they will destroy the mountains and crush all the people of Taif. Just give the command. And what did our Prophet ﷺ say? He raised his hands, he said, forgive them, Ya Allah, forgive them, forgive them. They do not know what they do. Maybe their offspring will come to Islam. And that is what happened. And in another example, in the conquest of Makkah, a huge turning point of Islam. After 20 years of persecution from the Quraysh, fighting, killing, Sayyidina Muhammad finally marched into Makkah with thousands and thousands of Muslims. And the Quraysh were all waiting to see what is going to happen. Are they all going to be rounded up? Are they all going to be executed? Are they going to be exiled to far-off lands? But no. He said, if you stay in the house of Abu Sufyan, you'll be safe. If you stay in the Kaaba, you'll be safe. Subhanallah. And look at the words of Abu Sufyan, the leader of the Quraysh, one of his biggest enemies. He was astonished. He said, how generous are you? How gentle are you? How forgiving are you, O Muhammad? This is when he wasn't even a Muslim yet. Subhanallah. And he said, I am just amazed how much you can forgive. And this is after 20 years of oppression. And he didn't just forgive on his tongue, he forgave in his heart. Subhanallah. Because he was وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. He was sent as a mercy to all the world. Subhanallah. But not just forgiving your close family and relatives, he's showing an example of forgiving even the non-Muslims. And through showing that forgiving nature, so many of his worst enemies, they saw the compassion, the mercy of Islam of this man, and they became to Islam that way, subhanAllah.
Subhanallah.
But sometimes it's easy to forgive the strangers, sometimes even the close ones to you, your wife, your husband, your children, your mother or father, those that are closest to you. When they do something bad to you, then really it feels like a knife in the heart sometimes, or stab in the back, and then sometimes even harder, and people hold grudges with the family. But it says explicitly in the Quran, explicitly it says, forgive family members, overlook their faults, wipe it clean from your heart. It says this very clearly. And with our Prophet ﷺ, no one ever came to him, his worst enemies, asking for forgiveness, that he still gave it to them, subhanAllah.
Subhanallah.
And in another example, Ikrimah, the son of Abu Jahl, Ikrimah. Abu Jahl, we know, was one of the biggest enemies of Rasulullah ﷺ, but he was killed in the Battle of Badr. And after that, his son Ikrimah became even worse than him. And he was always plotting against the Prophet ﷺ and fought in all the battles against him. And like I mentioned, the conquest of Makkah, most of the Quraysh by then, they accepted the power was too much. But even he, until that point, was not giving up. He was still fighting. And because of that, with the conquest of Makkah, there was 3 on a wanted list. Only 3 Quraysh after all those years of persecution. And he was at the top, wanted, dead or alive. So when he heard this, he went in disguise and he escaped to Yemen, and he went as far as he could. But sometime afterwards, Hind, the wife of Abu Sufyan, and this wife of Ikrimah, the two of them went to see the Prophet ﷺ. And Hind, we know, she had paid Vahshi to kill Hazrat Hamza, his uncle. She asked him for forgiveness, Rasulullah ﷺ, and he said, I forgive you, subhanAllah. And then she also asked, she said, Ya Rasulullah, will you give safety to my husband if he comes Ikrimah? And he said yes. He didn't hesitate. He didn't say, she didn't have to beg. So she was so happy and overjoyed. She went on days and days journey all the way to Yemen, and she found him almost getting on a boat, almost crossing the Red Sea. And she told him the news to Ikrimah, and he was astonished. He says, really? He said, I'm forgiven for everything I've done? So she said, yes. So he made the long journey back.
Subhanallah.
And look at the sensitivity of our Prophet ﷺ. He warned his companions then. He says, do not say any harsh words to Ikrimah, and do not mention his father any harsh words. And then he walked in and he walked through all the Sahaba, and he walked to the Prophet ﷺ, and they had a beautiful conversation, subhanAllah. He said, O Muhammad, what do you testify? And our Prophet ﷺ said, I testify there is no God but Allah. He said, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu rasuluh. And Ikrimah subhanAllah took shahada there and then in front of everyone.
Subhanallah.
And subhanAllah, he said back to the Prophet ﷺ, I fought for you, against you so strongly, now I'll fight twice as strongly for you, he said subhanAllah. And he fought in so many campaigns after that, even after the Prophet ﷺ had gone. And in the final campaign against the Byzantine Empire, big empire, he was charging into the ranks, subhanAllah. And the Khalid bin Walid was saying, don't go, you'll get killed, the way he was going on his own. And subhanAllah, 400 of the Muslims helped him. He said to Khalid bin Walid, you had the privilege to fight with Rasulullah. Now I have to atone for what I did, subhanAllah. And they were victorious from his charge, but 3 were shaheed. He was one of the shaheed on that day. But the scholars have said there's 4 ways to respond when someone has wronged you or been bad to you. If someone has been sarcastic or harsh, or someone has cheated you, 4 ways to respond. The first one is haram. The second one is permissible. The third one is good. And the fourth one is the highest level. Haram, permissible, good, and the highest level of Sayyidina Muhammad. The first one, if someone says a harsh word to you, our ego and shaitan wants to say 10 harsh words back to him. If he says one thing about our family, we want to hold a grudge for the next 10 years and say bad things about him. And this is haram. It's disproportionate. If one person says something bad to you, you're the victim, but then you become the sinful one. You become the oppressor. The next one, the second one is permissible. This is in Sharia. If someone does something bad to you, an eye for an eye, or a tooth for a tooth, yeah? If someone comes and slaps me, if I go to the Qadi and the judge and I say he slapped me, he said, okay, he has to give some compensation, or he has to let you slap him one back, and that's allowed in Sharia. But this level is the lowest level, and it was never encouraged in the Quran and never encouraged by the Prophet ﷺ. And he said the third level is to forgive them, Maybe you've got a good friend, and he slanders you, backbites you, and you find out about it, you forgive him. That's the third level. But maybe you don't forget it, and you keep him a bit at arm's length, so you see him in the mosque, you say, Salaam alaikum brother, but you don't really get very chummy with him. But the highest level is the fourth level of Sayyidina Muhammad. So you forgive and you forget. And you repair, and you mend the friendship, you make it stronger than ever. And this is the highest level of Hazrat Abu Bakr and Sayyidina Muhammad, where you return evil with good. Someone does evil to you and you return it with good. And in the Quran, it says specifically about this, it says the ones who do that, they return evil with good. Even your worst enemies will become your best friends. And we see this in the example with Ikrimah. 1 week before, he wanted to kill the Prophet ﷺ, and then 1 week later, he's fighting for him, he's sacrificing his life and his family for the Prophet ﷺ. And just before we get to the end, even if we look outside of Islam, if we look at psychological level, if you speak to a psychologist, if you speak to a counsellor, they will say holding a grudge, holding anger in your heart, pain, this sadness, it's the most unhealthy thing, they'll say. It's the most unhealthy thing. It'll make you depressed, physically, spiritually, mentally. It's the most unhealthy thing, and that darkness and that negative energy, anytime you see that person in town, or you hear their name, or you think about them, you'll be getting all those bad feelings. So the best thing, even the counsellors will say, let go of it, forgive them, let go of, don't hold your grudges, don't hold them. It's not good for you. If you want peace in this life, and you want tranquility, follow the example of our Sayyidina Muhammad. Don't hold grudges. But we do it for our main incentive, which is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said in the Quran. And He says, if you forgive others, don't you want Allah to forgive you? He says. So forgive others, and inshallah Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will forgive us. And He is also mentioned in Sahih Muslim, our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said, Allah only increases in izzah, in honor, those who forgive the others. He's increasing honor in this life and the next life, inshallah. So just to conclude, when you forgive someone, you're not the weaker one, you are the stronger of the two. When you forgive someone, you're not the weak one, you're the stronger of the two, subhanAllah. Ya Allah, forgive us for our sins. Help us to not hold grudges. For no one has wronged us like Abu Sufyan or Hind or Ikrimah like they did against the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He forgave. So Allah help us to forgive everyone, our family, our friends, anyone we know, Muslims and within and without Muslims. And purify our hearts and change our bad characteristics into good characteristics, Ya Rabbi. And change our bad actions into good actions. And if anyone has any illness, Azizam, our brother Azizam, his mother's had an operation, so shifa for her, and our friend Bilal Sahib, his father is not well in Pakistan, so shifa for them, and anyone else who is ill, and anyone who's got any problems in their life, Ya Allah, give them cure and give them resolve to that. And Ya Allah, give honor, give izzah back to the Muslims. Ya Allah, give peace and sanctity and safety to the Muslims in all the troubled lands. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifuna wa salamun ala al-mursaleen walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.